And here we go. Hello, welcome to the Sutliffian Report. Today, I'm going to tackle the problem of evil. And we're going to start out first by, since this is a Christian show, it's generally Christian news that I said for a while we're going to do apologetics. This is the second week of apologetics. This week we're tackling the problem of evil. And we always start out, since it's a Christian show, with the Word of God. And today we're reading Galatians 2, verses 20 to 21. I am crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the grace of God, for if righteousness comes by the law, then Christ is dead in vain. The one verse that describes who we as believers are each day is Galatians 2:20. We are crucified with him, yet live. Each day we must remind ourselves who we are, that we are but sinners and deserve to be on that cross. We must leave our sinful ways behind because of what Christ has done. We must leave that all on the cross because of what Jesus has done for us. He lives in us. For some of us, these daily battles are harder than others. Some days are harder than others also. But to know that Jesus loved us so much that he took upon himself to pay that price for our sins, for my sin, for yours. He, by this sacrifice, gave all, that I may put on righteousness that I have not earned. It's his. Who are we if not his? Who do we show to the world each day? Who should we tell others about each day? Has not Christ done more for us than any other? Yet we are silent. Wake up! Coffee time's over. Get out and share the love he has for you. Dear Lord Jesus, this time is at hand. That's how I feel. We don't know the hour or the minute you're going to return. But Lord, use me, use people listening, Lord, to share this great love with others. In your name, Lord Jesus, amen. And go back to the stream and see if anybody has popped in. Oh, yes, thank you. And Darcy has joined us. Thank you, Darcy. And I just got to stop my stream for a second and get back to sharing. We are about to start covering an interesting, difficult topic. And I say difficult because it's not something very many people dare to touch. No, it is something a lot of people like to avoid. The problem of evil, it seems to scare people. That's something I've never, I always wonder about it when I actually started doing serious study on the problem of evil. It blew my mind that this is not a problem. No, it's not a problem. The reality is it's not a problem, and this should shock you. So one of the arguments we always get when you're out on the streets is, "Oh, what things are evil. There must not be a God." Well, let's talk about this. That's what it comes down to. Let's talk about the problem of evil. We're just going to start from the beginning. This is the claim. There's a problem of evil, so God can't exist. Oh, your God can't be very strong, or your God can't do this or that because evil exists. Really? Is that what you think? Let's take a look at your argument. All right, so here's the questions. If evil exists, how can there be a God? Okay. If evil exists, how can there be a good God? Okay, these are good questions. How about this one? What kind of a God allows suffering? These are good questions, aren't they? When you get these questions, listen. Now let's find out what they mean by evil. Definitions. This is the importance of common ground. So the atheist view, evil is the most powerful term of moral condemnation. Worse than wrong, bad, or even wicked. Say something, an act of an individual is evil is the most forceful negative evaluation we have access to in the ethical sphere. So again, if you don't believe in God, how do you define evil? Really, really interesting when you start listening to them. Well, if something's evil, it's seriously wrong. It's worse than wrong. It's worse than bad. It's worse. Really? Okay. All right. Let's think about this. The atheistic concept of evil. Evil's not a function of the natural realm. Oh, so we're talking abstract. We're talking spiritual. Wait a minute. I thought you were an atheist. When a lion kills and eats a zebra, it's definitely not evil. All right. That makes sense. There can be no spiritual evil in a person. Now, wait a minute. Okay, there's no spiritual evil in a person. That's what they're saying. Start thinking. It's kind of what they said in at the same time, not what they said. You've got to sit here and listen. All right. Intention is required for evil to be committed in atheism. I can understand that. Makes some sense. Okay. Evil is relative. There is no absolute. It is situational. Situational. We're going to have some problems with that one. Relative. No absolute. Yet you believe there's something called evil. Not going to say I agree with you, but it's something to think about. Okay. Problem. For an atheist, there is no absolute evil. They define evil using circular logic. Evil is wicked or immoral. What's wicked? What's moral? Moral is evil. Wicked is evil. Wait. You can't go around in circles like this. It doesn't work. And this is why you got to sit there and you got to ask people for their definitions. What do you consider evil when they're saying all these things? And that's part of the goal of being a Christian and being out there sharing. You ask questions, make them define where they stand. Sometimes, when you're asking questions, this thing up here, you can watch when you're asking questions and you're out in the street, ask, what do you get this thing? Oh, what about the problem of evil? And you ask them, how do you define evil? And they realize they're actually defining something that actually expresses a belief. Oh, yeah. So much for that, not believing. Let's keep going. Here's another problem for an atheist. Evil is defined in terms of magnitude. So, killing a baby, is that evil? Or is it, it's only evil if it's worse than something else? Start asking questions here. What's evil? How do you define the magnitude? I mean, what is worse than, if something has to be worse than what? Yeah. So here's how they get into it. Accepting their definition, and this is where this problem is, without specific examples. You need something you can both agree on that's evil. Okay, can we both agree that Hitler is evil? Okay, if we're talking Hitler and the stuff he did, yeah, we can say that was evil. Okay. 9 times out of 10, they'll agree with you on that. Unless maybe they agree with Hitler. Then they might not see him as evil. Oh, yeah, believe it or not, I have met people that think Hitler was a good guy. Where God is not a factor of moral truth, there is only function, instinct, reason, intention. So if there's no God, there's no moral truth. Hi, Dragon. Thank you for joining us. There's only function. It just seems like we're still like spinning in our wheels because you get the circular logic thing going on. Okay, let's keep going. What's the Christian view of evil? Evil is that which is contrary to the character and will of God. Oh, what sounds like that? Could it be sin? And then sin is evil. Oh, wow. All right. Evil is that which is of malevolent intent. See, we have an agreement. We're talking about intent. Ooh. So atheists and us do agree on something. It is what is immoral. Well, they don't have that concept. Or do they? It's counter to God's holiness. So we say counter or opposing it. It opposes God's holiness. All right. So how would what I would have done from my class, I would have usually assigned them to have this discussion with somebody. Find somebody on the street and discuss a definition of evil. Does anybody? Let me put a link into this. Let's see if I can do that here. Anybody wants to join us? Darcy, have you ever talked to someone about their definition of evil?
Well, actually, right offhand, I can't think of any.
It's an interesting question to have. And when I gave this out to people as a homework assignment, I think they found it very difficult to do. Because, I mean, you can't have this kind of discussion at work. And so that means you have to find somebody you probably don't know to have this discussion. And it's an important discussion to have. What if, especially with atheists, how do you define evil if you can't believe there's a God? Well, it would mean you really don't believe there's such a thing as Satan. You don't believe all these things. Okay. What if you defined evil as this is where you have to sit there and try and figure out where people go. I have found really bizarre answers. And then I found some you sit there and go, oh, maybe, I could probably agree with that. Just like the concept of intention. You think of evil, when you ever watch a crime show and you'll see, there's some shows I can't watch because the guy who's the bad guy, his intentions are so evil. He plans so far ahead to do these evil things. And I can't watch that. It just drives me nuts because it's just nothing but evil intent. But I think this is actually a very important concept to have a discussion on with anyone that that is an atheist. How do they define evil? I think the question is important, and I'm going to show you why. So let's look at the biblical definition of Satan first. Who is Satan? The word, and I'm going to grow this so people can see it. Sorry about how small it is. Okay. The word Satan is the Hebrew transliteration of the word adversary. Therefore, Satan is the one who opposes God. Satan is the most powerful of the fallen angels. Satan, also known as Lucifer and the devil, is said to be the one who entered the Garden of Eden and convinced Eve to disobey God. There is debate among scholars regarding the time of the fall of Satan. Some say that he fell when he moved Eve to disobey God. Others state that Satan fell sometime before that and merely manifested his adversarial nature in the garden. Still, others say that there was a great battle in heaven long before the Garden of Eden and that Satan took 1/3 of the angels with him. Does it really matter when he fell? And the answer really is no. It doesn't matter. Did he fall? Absolutely. It doesn't matter when. Okay, I like Matt Slick, and I'm going to keep recommending carm.org to everybody. You'll probably see it throughout the entire presentation in Apologetics. Got to know Matt a little bit many years ago. All right. Can't believe I'm saying that now. It's over 20 years ago. All right. Scripture citations. All right. So here we go. If this goes too fast, let me know. I would say write them down because these are cool. This is from Revelation 12, verses 3 to 4. And another sign appeared in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 diadems. And his tail swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. Who are we talking about? Sure sounds like Satan. That great red dragon. Okay, how about Isaiah 14:12 through 14? How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How are you cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations? For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Sorry, it's not going to work out well for you, Satan. It doesn't work. You can't get bigger than God. You can dream about it. It's not going to work out for you. See that nice first verse? How you are fallen. All right. Let's take a biblical philosophical definition. All right. Again, this is Satan. We must realize a distinction between moral evil and natural evil. We're looking at. All right. Biblical philosophical distinction between moral evil and natural evil. So, moral evil is this: it's the sin of rational creatures. Okay. We have angels, we have men, rational creatures. Okay. Natural evil is anything that brings suffering into the lives of those creatures. Okay. So you have things like earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, COVID-19, things like that. Suffering. Death can be considered a natural evil causing suffering. Right? There's a lot of things. I mean, just natural disasters is just one thing. Disease, illness, yeah. Moral evil came first. It's from Adam and Eve's disobedience that God cursed the land, bringing natural evil into being. So that's something to think about. If there was no moral evil, would there be something as natural evil? And the answer is absolutely not. See, if Adam had never sinned, there would be no curse upon the land. So keep that in mind. Now you know how I've waited. Let's talk about suffering. We'll get into that in a minute. Skeptic arguments before we get into that. The skeptic argument. Premise one: if God is all good, omnibenevolent, he would prevent evil. Really? If God is all powerful, all omnipotent, he would prevent evil. He could prevent evil. Yeah, he could. If God is all knowing, omniscient, he knows how to prevent evil. I'll agree with that. But evil exists. Something to think about. This is the skeptic, person who doesn't really believe in God. This is their argument. But is that the real takedown of God? Let's think about it. Is it really a takedown? Their argument is that either God is not all good, all powerful, or all knowing, or maybe he doesn't exist. I think there's a different answer. Here we go. Here's this several problems with the evil as they're defining it. To properly address the person posing the argument, you got to understand where they're coming from. And when I run into people that want to use the problem of evil, this is what I'll say to you. 9 times out of 10, they've had some horrible tragedy happen in their life, and usually it's quite recent. Or it's so severe, it hits them so deeply, it's not something they can walk away from. It's bothering them. So you need to listen. When you're talking to a person who wants to talk about the problem of evil, that when they bring it up rather than you, your job is to be a listening ear. They're going to be emotional. They're going to have personal experiences they're going to share that might be hard to listen to, but be there. Because maybe you'll get a chance to share some of the answers. So, worldview concepts. Which is superior? Which worldview best accounts for the origin and existence of evil? Which worldview offers the best solution to evil? These are things that have to be asked. Which one? Christianity. Really? Why? Can atheists or any other religion offer a better account for their origin and existence of evil when compared with Christian theism? They have nothing. They can't explain the concept of evil without a concept of good. That's the truth. Now let's talk about this concept of moral relativism they keep wanting to get back to. Moral is relative, huh? The claim here is that evil is relative. Make sure you establish that this is their claim. Then you're going to ask if the following is true or false. And what does this mean? Really, if you really believe that there's no such thing as absolutes, there's no moral absolutes. Do you really believe these things? It is always wrong for... Okay, we're asking true or false. It is always wrong for anyone to torture babies to death merely for one's personal pleasure. Is that true or false? Anybody want to answer that one? What happens when you run to the person that says, it's always wrong for anyone to torture? Okay, I would say it's always wrong for anyone to torture babies to death merely for personal pleasure. I think you're a very sick person. You do that. If the person says it's true, then there is an agreement that there exists a universal moral truth. So yeah, I've only run into one person. Be honest, I have run into one person who said this, that they didn't think this was evil, and I'm like, really? And the place I encountered it, believe it or not, was in church. It made me start to think, this is the guy who can say that this is not, that there's no absolute here. would probably be the sociopath. It's a little scary when you start thinking that way. All right. If the person says false, then the person is agreeing with the concept that there exists morally good reasons to torture babies to death merely for one's personal pleasure. That's quite scary when you think about it. All right, let's take a look at the Christian response to the problem of evil. First, you got to recognize the problem of evil is not an argument to defend atheism. This is where I say it's fun. The problem of evil doesn't help atheism at all. If anything, it's an expression of personal sadness, personal tragedy. And it cuts them deeply. And for this reason, we need to do everything we can to help them. So, like I say, be a listening person when you're listening to these arguments. Here's the Christian premise. If God is all good, omnibenevolent, he would prevent evil. So, God exists and atheism is false, correct? If that's true. Let's try this again. If God is all powerful and omnipotent, he could prevent evil. Again, God exists. Atheism is false. Sounds like you're arguing for us. If God is all knowing, he knows how to prevent evil. Aren't you saying God exists and atheism is false? Did you catch this? All of this is a statement that God exists and atheism is false. Each premise says if God is all good, he would prevent evil. Does God do this every day? Absolutely. If God is all powerful, he could prevent evil. Does he do this every day? Absolutely. If God is all knowing, he knows how to prevent evil. Yes. And he does this every day. Let's talk about free will. God gave man free will. So man misuses his free will and chooses to do evil. Well, I have a choice to do the right thing, or for us guys, usually we choose to do the stupid thing. Not necessarily evil thing, but a lot of times we choose to do the stupid thing, which, yes, unfortunately, it's tied to evil. The evil in the present world is a result of this ongoing misuse of freedom. Yes, and I blame a lot of us guys for doing and choosing the stupid stuff, which is normally tied to evil. Greater good. God has permitted evil to bring about a greater good which could not have come about without the existence of evil. How do you have a greater good if there is no evil? It's a concept you have to accept. If there's good, there's evil. If there's evil, there's good. Yeah, you have to start thinking, what does that mean? I mean, these are arguments, these are talks that you can have with an atheist, and you're starting to talk about something abstract. You're starting to talk about something they might feel uncomfortable with, but to get them into talking about these things is a step towards the right direction. This number for letter B here. Because God exists as an eternal being, it's not possible for a finite being to comprehend why what we may call evil can bring about greater good. Think about that. Because God exists as an eternal being, it's not possible for a finite being, a human being, to comprehend why what we may call evil can bring about a greater good. Sometimes we can't see, why something that sounds horrible to us, maybe a death or something, could be better than what it. And it's hard. Sometimes those things are hard to see. I'll admit it. Okay. Let's flip this. The problem of evil can be a proof for God. If God does not exist, universal moral values don't exist. Guess what? Evil exists. Therefore, universal moral values exist. Therefore, God exists. Because even the atheists will tell you evil exists. Think about that. Do you think the problem of evil is difficult or easy to address on your own? And that's the. Wow, this ended faster than I thought. And I want to save this part for, you know what? I'll save this part for next week because I want to go into fallacious reasoning next week. And this is a rip-roaring, laughing week next week, and you will have a good number of laughs. One of the things that I do when I talk about fallacious reasoning is I show lots of. I've done this once before on the show, and basically I'm showing you commercials. I'm showing you things that will make you laugh so you remember it. And I want you to think about how important it is to understand logic. But again, the big thing tonight is to think about the problem of evil and how that relates to reality. Now, I'm going to drop that and let's talk about what everybody's upset about is these elections. And I don't know how many people have were out there voting yesterday. I worked the elections yesterday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. I worked the elections Tuesday, and I have to say this: where I'm located for the elections, we had a large number of people come, probably larger than we've had come outside of presidential year in quite some time. And I felt that was a good thing. I didn't care who was voting. The idea is that the more people vote, it should be a better result. I live in Libland, New York. Result was not what I want. And then we have Dominion machines, so I don't trust those stupid machines. But that's me. None of the people I would have that I cast ballots for would win. It's frustrating. Especially when you know that some of the persons running would do a better job. Without a doubt in your mind. So I'm not trusting of these machines. I've heard everybody heard about what happened in Texas, Maricopa, Texas. Everybody heard about all this stuff that's going on. I have no problem believing that there was some kind of steal out there, but can I prove it? I would rather find evidence one way or the other. After having seen the large turnout and having spoken with people in a lot of different communities, they're all upset about the high prices. They're all upset about. I've actually been in downtown Rochester where people screaming and yelling at Biden and blaming him, wanting him voted out of office because of the incredible rise in prices. They don't have anybody else to blame. And then I look at this and this is what makes me wonder. No matter where I have been, I've seen this, in what I would call high population dim land, they're still teaching complaining about these things. So I'm wondering, if I see these kind of results, what's going on? I mean, I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. I look at these things and I have to ask questions. How is this happening? How is it? How is this so real? I don't know. People say there wasn't a red wave. I question that because of the amount. What I would like to see done just were for people to actually to find out, do your own little information. Look at the percentage of voters that turned out. That to me would say a lot, at the very least. Look at the percentage of people who turned out. I think this is extremely, extremely important. Now, I do have a few news articles to share, and let's see. The one I was looking for, I actually just found, so I'm going to share this article. It's kind of scary. It's a lot of what I've been talking about over the years with on Blog Talk Radio and on YouTube. It has to do with the Muslim Brotherhood in the background. It's mentioning some of the stories I've talked about, so I'm just going to put this link in the stream, and here we go. This article to me is extremely important. It's titled FBI Contractors Spied on GOP Congressman to Protect the Muslim Brotherhood. The death of Qatari operative Jamal Khashoggi has been the subject of front-page headlines, press conferences, a documentary, and speeches for top figures including Joe Biden. Qatar employing an ex-CIA officer who set out to spy on Republican congressmen to help protect the Muslim Brotherhood has received virtually no coverage in the media. In fact, I'll tell you this. I've seen news articles on this topic even today when I've received these articles. I've received links to these articles. Even today, those articles have disappeared. For whatever news source it was on, it's gone. And that kind of shocked me. The Washington Post, which platformed Khashoggi and labored to turn the old friend of Osama bin Laden into a martyr, did not feel that Qatar's spying on a congressman was worth more coverage than rerunning the AP Wire story that the New York Times didn't even do that much. The AP story alleged that Qatar employed Kevin Schalker, a former CIA officer, and his company, Global Risk Advisors, to target opponents of the Islamic terror state, which has ties to everything from 9/11 to Hamas and to the Taliban. That included pitching a sprawling covert influence operation to damage the reputation of U.S. officials perceived as Qatar's enemies. One of those enemies of the Islamic terror state may have been Representative Mario Diaz-Balart. In 2015, the Republican Congressman and Senator Ted Cruz introduced the Muslim Brotherhood Terrorist Designation Act. This would have been extremely inconvenient to Qatar, which hosts Muslim Brotherhood figures and backs the Islamic expansion movement, whose goal is to take over countries and impose brutality of Sharia law on their people, including the United States. This bill was reintroduced again in 2017, co-sponsored by a number of House Republicans, including Representative Louis Gohmert. While the bill never became law, Representative Diaz-Balart's persistence appeared to worry Qatar and the former spooks doing its dirty work. The AP story reveals that Global Risk Advisors created a Project Endgame and boasted in internal records that it had developed an approach to a close contact of the congressman who sponsored legislation that year to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Developed an approach is an intelligence jargon for seeking to recruit a potential asset. At least one previous GRA effort had alleged involved a Facebook honeypot operation. Really? Okay. So you've set up a fake person to proclaim they are a female to try and tempt somebody? I don't know how many people would fall for that. Just, yeah. Sometimes you hear these things, you gotta sit there and go, "How stupid!" Yeah. It's just you just gotta sit there and this is nuts. It is just as nuts as it sounds. I have another news story out of Australia, and this one is kind of interesting. And I'm laughing at this one This comes from news.com.au. And I laugh at this one. You probably see why. I'll put this again in the chat room. And let's see here. Get to the right spot. Here we go. This article I found rather Muslim dad suffering psychological trauma from Charlie Hebdo cartoon shown to class. It was a mom, Melbourne, Australia's daughter was
Paul,
psychological
connection
after being shown a glass. Sorry, what?
Your connection's
Hello?
acting up. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Your connection was acting up.
Okay. All right. So let me try this again. All right. A Muslim father in Melbourne, Australia says his daughter was left with psychological trauma after being shown a blasphemous cartoon of Muhammad during a high school class. Posting on social media, the father said the incident occurred at a Melbourne college last month during a media studies class where they played a video showing banned, explicit, and blasphemous cartoon material developed somewhere in Europe against our holy prophet. Really, and he wants to say peace or whatever with it on him. According, no, really, this guy is so afraid of psychological trauma because of a picture. Well, Muhammad was a physical person, okay, because there's cartoons made of him. In it's that horrible, and you're saying this video is banned, it's explicit, it's blasphemous. Let's see. What do you say about Jesus? Do you say that he's not God? Well, that's blasphemous. What do you say about you say about any other faith? You're always telling us that only Islam is real. Oh, do you realize how blasphemous that is? And the funny thing is, if you actually study Islam and you read the Quran, you sit there and go, really, is there actually anything true about this? Was the guy who wrote this, who learned Arabic as a second language? There's no way you can get around that one. Okay, if he learned Arabic as a second language, what does that say about this book that you can only read in Arabic when somebody wrote it when they were writing from a second language perspective? That should make you think. I know it does to me. What does that mean if the book you're saying has to be read in Arabic, has to be read in a second perspective? Oh, don't worry, Darcy. Thank you. It still makes me laugh when I think about that. All right. Why would this be blasphemous? Well, it's because someone told them it's blasphemous. Oh, so it's psychological trauma. Well, if someone has to tell you you're suffering psychological trauma because you're shown a picture, which the dad is claiming, really, trauma. So the person might ask questions as a result of being shown the picture. So why? So you might have seen the picture where Muhammad's head was wearing a bomb. Is that psychologically traumatic? A picture of a person with a bomb on his head. Is that really going to hurt your psyche? No. Not too long ago, they had the National Endowment for the Arts paid for a cup of pee, and they put a cross in it, and they called that art. Was it psychological damning? No, it wasn't causing any trauma. Is it upsetting? Probably. Did you want to get someone fired for paying for that? Absolutely. Was it going to hurt your psyche? No. You just got to start thinking the guy who paid for this is incredibly stupid. But yeah. This Melbourne dad said the materials shown in class October 14th depicted two men acting out, doing things to each other, and one of them was shown to be the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Really, he's holy. Can you show me where he's holy in the Quran, please? I would like someone show me that he is holy in the Quran. I haven't seen it. And I'd like you to show me that Muhammad is a prophet in the Quran. I still have yet to see that. I see where he's a messenger. I don't see any place that puts him as a prophet. As per the Religious Discrimination Bill in 2021, it's clearly an act of religious discrimination. So let's get this down. Your real issue is that you don't want anyone to talk about something. So you're trying to shut people up from talking about Islam. So you don't believe in freedom of speech is what it comes down to. Only your opinion has value. That's the real issue here. And no one is going at it and saying that. Well, wait a minute. I am. Robert Spencer is. Other people are. Why don't they listen to us on this? This is something we should think about. It's scary. It's scary when some of these things are not discussed. Now, this next article I'm going to share comes from the Justice Department. And it should shock you that the Justice Department has this out there. Here we go. Just put this in the chat room. Hey, Larry, you're welcome to join. I think if you go up, we'll go up, Larry, you'll find the link to the stream if you'd like to join us. All right. So out of Middlesex County, a man was charged with communicating a threat to attack a synagogue. Let's think about this. The Middlesex, New Jersey man arrested today for transmitting via the internet manifesto containing threats to attack a synagogue of Jewish people, according to U.S. Attorney Philip R. Selinger. Omar Al-Khatul, who was 18, of Sayreville, New Jersey, was arrested this morning and charged by complaint with one count of transmitting a threat in interstate and foreign commerce on or about November 1st, 2022. He is scheduled to appear this afternoon before U.S. Magistrate Judge Jessica S. Allen in Newark Federal Court. No one should be targeted for violence with the acts of hate because of how they worship, U.S. Attorney Selinger said. According to the complaint, the defendant used social media to send a manifesto containing a threat to attack a synagogue based on his hatred of Jews. Along with our federal, state, and local law enforcement partners, we acted swiftly to respond to the alleged threat. There is nothing the U.S. Attorney's Office takes more seriously than threats to our communities of faith and place of worship. Protection of these communities is core to this office mission, and the office will devote whatever resources are necessary to keep our Jewish community and all of New Jersey residents safe. Well, that's good that New Jersey government did that. It's sad that, it is sad that no one's out there exposing why they're doing this. This is what I think is important. If you start to look at Islam, it teaches hatred. I mean, they're kind of going to expose that this is a topic, but they need to expose that the reason why. Why is this happening? And that's where I think we run into problems when we don't talk about the why. Islam teaches hatred. You'll find that as one of the second to last chapter that I have is that Islam teaches hatred. It's a social norm to teach hatred in Islamic families. I really wish it wasn't true. But when you're praying 17 times a day, and in your prayer of 17 times a day, you are making a statement of hatred against Jews and Christians. See, 17 times a day you bang your head saying these things. Let's see, 17 times 7. Oh, that number keeps going up. Then you add that by the month. Let's start thinking about that. Wow. It's an awful lot of times to say and make an expression of hatred, because that's in the first surah, which is said, again, 17 times a day. Read the Quran. There are many expressions of hatred against Jews and Christians. It's there.
And it's really sad too.
Yeah. And, I don't think anybody, the horrible truth is the ones who suffer the most from Islam are the followers of Islam. They will kill amongst themselves. And, I don't understand when I look at some of this, how they miss that. I there's a story this week I want to share that's out of Israel on that similar kind of thing. They don't want to talk about the hatred that's taught. Our own media lies. So the United States media, I'm picking on the U.S. They will lie about the facts of stories so they can get their intended stuff across. I think that's scary. Let me pull this story up. Now, this is a story I got earlier today. I was kind of like, I know this stuff is happening all the time. I don't like some of these things. I don't like that we have to point out the obvious. Now, has anybody ever seen, you'll see a picture of a child, some kid gets killed in the city or wherever, and they will say, oh, this child was he did no wrong. He never did anything wrong. And the sad, sorry truth is when you get that, they don't tell you the full story. And this is, so they put this out. So I'm going to just talk about this one piece, and this comes from Honest Reporting. And I can't tell you how many times I have, because I've worked in high schools where some of the kids just aren't angels. And you don't think about the kids. A lot of times you don't think about the kids doing horrible things. You can't think like that if you want to work in education. Then every once in a while you come across a kid that you want to warn the world about. You do what you can. You warn the administrators. You say somebody needs to help this kid. You do what you can. And you sit there trying to figure out what to do. I'm going to mute you for now, Sharon. Okay. All right. Let me get into the story. Innocent teen or armed terrorist. New York Post can't tell the difference. Meet Mahdi Hassash, who was killed during clashes between Palestinian gunmen and Israeli forces protecting a group of Jewish worshippers visiting Joseph's tomb on the outskirts of the West Bank of Nablus. In the early hours of Wednesday morning. Hashish was apparently placing an explosive device when Israeli troops opened fire. He died after his bomb detonated. Wait a minute. It was his bomb. It detonated when he was nearby. Oh. So it's Israel's fault, right? He was placing the bomb. The Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade immediately claimed Hassash was one of their own. He was 15 years old. That's something to think about. They're claiming a 15-year-old child as one of their martyrs. What does this say about what they teach in kindergarten? First grade, second grade, all the way up. 15, he's possibly what you would think of as your sophomore or freshman. These are things, it could be, if he's really young, smarter kid, could be junior in high school. It's sad to think that you have a child, 15 years old, that has such beliefs that he needs to go die for his faith. It is nothing but sad. Then there are people who are out there that are willing to sacrifice their children. And if you want to see more of that, you can go to memory.org, Middle East Media Research Institute, and you can find these women who are saying they're willing to for they don't, they're going to have another child so they can send another one to die. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing. You sit there like, I don't want to hear more about this, but that's the reality. Let's go here. One more story here. Let's see. This is out of Barron's, and we'll just share this article out of the Congo. Okay, let me get to copy this and paste this into the stream again. Hey, Built for Speed. All right, so let's get to this article. Suspected ADF militants kill 3 in East Democratic Republic, Congo. Suspected fighters in the Allied Democratic Forces group have killed 3 people and torched houses and a clinic in the Democratic Republic of Congo's volatile east, local sources said Wednesday. ADF militants attacked the village of Kabasha, about 10 kilometers, 6 miles from the town of Beni, North Kivu province, in the early hours Wednesday morning. He added that 3 people were found dead afterwards and the village clinic burned down. The ADF, which the Islamic State group claims as its Central African offshoot, so ADF, okay, we're talking about Islamic jihadists, is among the most violent of more than 120 armed groups active in the Democratic Republic of Congo's east. Has been accused of slaughtering thousands of Congolese civilians, and carrying out bomb attacks in neighboring Uganda. Philemon Kaserka, a pastor who spoke to the AFP via telephone from Beni, said other villagers were missing in the wake of the attack. 2 of the dead were a mother and a child whose house had been torched. These guys are so brave. They're out there killing little kids. That's the kind of stuff you like, oh, they're so brave. What? I thought they were fighting. How are you fighting a jihad when you're out there killing little children? I mean, that if there's killing a mother and a child, and you consider that an act of war, it's just because they don't believe. It's sad. And you know what kills me the most about this? You won't find this stuff on the regular news. That just makes me sick. That they won't report this stuff. Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. I think that's scary when people won't share this information.
It is.
Yeah, I think we need to do more to get this information out. And I've been lenient on this lately. I used to share it out every day, and I have not been doing that. I've been busier doing other things, and for that I'm lax. I think we need to do everything we can to get it out again, especially now that we've lost, and I say in general. What's funny is if you actually looked at the results of the elections, the majority of the country went red, and only small areas went blue. That says something. When you look at that map, I don't know if anybody saw the maps that came out. You sit there and you wonder how so many Democrats won in these elections when so much was red. I can't understand that personally. It's beyond my comprehension. But I think we need to get the truth out and just keep hitting them over the head with it. Some of these things just have to be shared, and I'm going to keep pushing that part of it. Here's another interesting story. This came out from the Jewish News Syndicate, and I'll put this in the chat room. And I try to think about. Oops, I put it in the wrong room. Sorry about that. Okay. I try as much as I can to get this information out But again, I'm not counting myself as been as good as I usually have. This comes from JNS, Jewish News Syndicate. Israeli killed in Kiryat Arba, a terror attack identified as Ronan Hanania. The mass shooting was perpetrated by Mohammed al-Jabari, who is reportedly a member of a new terror faction affiliated with Hamas. Wait a minute. Hamas is a terrorist group, right? So why is CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, allowed to exist if they are considered an affiliate of Hamas? Because they're basically Hamas in America. These are questions we have to ask. Is Hamas still killing people today? Well, here we have evidence of it. But they're okay to exist here? We've got to start asking these questions, get people to think about this. This article came out the 30th of October. We are a week late getting this out to you, so please accept our apologies. Here we go. The 50-year-old Israeli killed in a Palestinian terror attack last Saturday. Yeah, it would have been actually a little bit more than a week ago. Sorry about that. At the entrance of Kiryat Arba has been identified as Ronan Hanania. The mass shooting was perpetrated by Mohammed al-Jabari, reportedly a member of a new terror faction affiliated with Hamas, shot dead by the security forces. Israeli troops detained Jabari's brother early Sunday morning over his suspected involvement in the attack. Another Israeli in his 50s, identified as Magen David Adom paramedic, was seriously wounded in the attack and evacuated to the Shah Zedek Medical Center, where his condition was reportedly since improved. Two other Israelis were lightly to moderately wounded and were reportedly in stable condition. Palestinian was also wounded in the attack and was evacuated to a Palestinian Authority-run hospital. Probably not what they wanted. I am praying with all the citizens of Israel for the well-being of those injured in the attack. The Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid tweeted in the aftermath of the accident. Terrorism will not defeat us. We will act with a strong hand against the assailants and their senders. Now, do we sit still or do you act? That's what it comes down to. Is anybody else losing me? I mean, Darcy's losing me. Is that? Can anybody hear? Can you guys hear me? Hello?
I've had no problems, Paul. I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. All right.
I can just black out for a minute for me.
Can Sharon, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So have I gone out at all? Because I'm not seeing any signs from this side that I've lost anything. Usually I hear a little background and I see the lights on my that are supposed to flash on my router going nuts, but not having that today. I don't know. All right.
I had no issues, Paul. I didn't hear you cut or anything, so
okay,
it was good on my end.
All right. Feel free to contribute because there's a lot of stuff out there. My biggest concern, people, let me see if I can pull this other article up. Now, everybody's heard about what's happening with Russia. I have a source that is writing some incredible stuff. Now, I do want to talk about one of her pieces, and I think she does an outstanding piece. And let's see if I can. She's been writing about Ramzan Kadyrov, who was Putin's general, the president of Chechnya and a warrior for Allah. And I want you to think about this. And she just sent out a piece. Let me see if I can find one of her. This is not it. Go back a little bit. I'm pretty sure she sent us another one. The joy of doing some of the strange things that I do on the side, I would say, is I meet some very, very interesting people who are professional writers, who are professional research writers, and I'm running into people whose work is, how do I explain it? It's drastically important. I guess is how I would put it. Let me just see if I can find this article here. She's been writing about Putin for a while, and I'm never quite again with Putin, the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. I'm of the opinion. I'm just going to say this: that no matter who we're hearing information from, if you're hearing it from me, you're hearing it from everybody, you can't trust whatever it is. I am of the opinion that we are not getting even close to the full perspective of anything. And so I trust some of those people that I listen to have more information. One of them is Lauren Combe. Let me see if I can find that article. She did a piece on this, and I'll have to go look for it, I guess. Let's see if it's... All right, so I'm just going to share an article she shared with us. Russia, this is from Inside Paper. And I don't know if anybody has listened to what Russia's doing with regarding the homosexual issue. And this is being defended and fought for by the Islamic agenda as well, like they're starting to do here in the States. So the Republicans may end up having, Christians may end up having a partner in this fight. It's not necessarily a partner we want, and we're not necessarily the partner they want. But this is an interesting piece. Again, this comes from insiderpaper.com. Russia vows to defend traditional values against the U.S. and gay propaganda. This came out yesterday. Russia on Wednesday vowed to defend its traditional values against threats from the United States and gay propaganda in a document signed by President Vladimir Putin. The presidential decree setting out official policy and entering force immediately stresses the importance of traditional values as the basis of Russian society. It warns that Moscow must take urgent measures to ward off threats, including terror groups, certain mass media, and the United States and other unfriendly foreign countries. It also lists internal threats from the activities of certain organizations and peoples on Russian soil. These foes risk implementing alien ideas in Russian society and causing the destruction of the traditional family unit through propaganda of non-traditional sexual relationships. The decree says using a phrase referring to LGBTQ relationships. The Orthodox Church welcomed the document as a way to preserve our people and protect our children from being defiled. Senior cleric Fyodor Lukyanov told TASS state news agency. The mission statement comes as Russian lawmakers are pushing through amendments to toughen up controversial 2013 law banning, quote, gay propaganda to minors. Well, I have to be truthful. I think if you decide that you need to talk to children about about your sexuality, something's seriously wrong with you. We're no longer calling you just gay. We're starting to be concerned about your desires for pedophilia because you decide you have to share your sexuality with children. And this is where I will stand behind the Russian government on this. I don't care what government this is that we're talking about. In the United States, I don't care where you live. You have no right to put your sexuality. I don't care what you teach. You should not be sharing sexuality with children. Shouldn't be talking about it. The only place I can see that fits is a class on sex education. That should be 9th, 10th. All right. I guess, 6th grade, you're going to talk about some of it. Again, only within the confines of that classroom. If you go to another teacher and they decide they want to talk about sexuality, report them. Kids, you heard me say it. Report your teacher if they want to talk about sexuality. Report your teacher if they decide to bring the topic up. Report your teacher. Parents, you do the same thing. report those teachers. I don't care who it is. Now, that's a topic that should never, ever be discussed in any classroom situation. I've been in a school where they decided to take all the, quote, gender confused people and put them in a classroom. And, I sat there and listening to this, and the social worker who was going to lead the group, not a teacher, didn't think about that. She happened to be a lesbian. She thought that she would straighten them out. Really? Straighten them out? How? So I don't think that there should ever be such an entity created. Children don't have the best knowledge, and they don't have the way to access the best knowledge. They don't have the way to think properly yet. It's not too much longer. By the time someone gets to their teen years, they just finished the idea of wanting to be Superman, Wonder Woman, things like that. Do you really think that they have the mental capacity to choose which sex they want to be or what their preferences are at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17? We're just letting kids vote at 18. What does that say about us? We're not even letting them visit a bar that does strip things. They have to be 21 years old to enter one of those, at least in New York State. What does that say if we don't let them go to porn shows until they're above 18, 20? Some places it has to be 21. Do you really think children can make those decisions if they can't enter a strip bar? Thank you, Built for Speed. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. You know what I'll say about that? Parents, your job is never done until you leave the earth. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. When you're old, you're still teaching him those same things. Sometimes you get to hear those messages over and over and over again. For those of us who are older and understand that about our parents telling us those same things over and over again, it's important that we do those things as parents, that we give that consistent message. It's extremely important. Again, a child doesn't have that mental capacity. They had a video up, and I wish I could think about where it was. I saw this video about a week and a half ago, where there were medical professionals who endorsed the what I considered it is basically an act of abuse. It's an act of mutilation where they'll change your physical body to the sex you desire. And they're doing this to teenagers. These doctors they're a group of people who are doing these surgeries. And in their Zoom, whatever call that they're doing, they're discussing how many of their patients come back and say, I wish I'd never done this. Now, I find that interesting. These are professionals who are doing this continually, and they know this, and they continue to do this. Do you remember that Hippocratic oath to do no harm? How is mutilation not doing harm? That's something to think about. I can't grasp the idea that people are willing to call FGM mutilation, female genitalia mutilation. They'll say this act of female circumcision is mutilation. Then at the same time, they'll turn around and they'll cut off a penis or cut off breasts, attach a penis, and have no problem with that. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. But these are things that we need to not be silent about. I mean, if you have an opinion on this, it's time we start talking. We can't be silent anymore. There is no way in the world that we can be silent. There is a new video that I cannot share on this show from Project Veritas that I recommend everybody watch. So after the show, I'm going to recommend people go there. Let me tell you the title of this, and you'll understand why I will not show this. And I'm just going to read the beginning of this email that I got. Project Veritas released a new video today exposing an educator working at a prestigious Connecticut private school, Iman Rosti, for sexually explicit statements he made about his current high school students. Yeah, I couldn't watch that if I was working or home or whatever. No. The idea that somebody would do those things, lock him up, fire his butt, take him away, get him far away from children. Is this happening? Yeah. Is it real? Is it happening? I wish it wasn't. I really wish it wasn't. But there are, my kids, I talk to children and I say, do you know why you had no school today for election day in New York State? I told his kids, look, the reason why you have no school on election day is so the perverts can vote. We call it the pervert holiday. Oh, I want you to think about that. It's the only day in the entire school year where perverts are allowed to go to schools to vote. Somebody explain that one to me. They close the schools so the perverts can come to the schools who are forbidden to going near a school. That one I cannot explain. And you talk to kids are like, why did we have the day off? Yeah. It's something, and when you tell the kids this, they're like, how can you say that? And it's like, how can you call it pervert day? I says, ask any other teacher. And the funny thing is, here I am standing, I'm going out and the kids are like upset for me with saying that. And they go out in the hallway and one teacher's having the same discussion with another kid. Laughing. Like, look, it's very truthful that this stuff is happening. That they are having pervert holidays on election day. You want to know why we're having problems with the red wave? Stop having holidays for perverts. Keep the schools open. Tell the perverts to go someplace else to vote. All right? Stop having a holiday for perverts. Let the schools stay open. Something severely wrong with the morality of a country when they think they need to give the school a day off so perverts can come to the school to vote. Something severely wrong. Built for Speed. I had to read Francis Schaeffer's work, and yeah, I think that's the very book I had to read, Decline of Human Civilization, back in 1982. Yeah, I think it would have been about 1982. Wow. That's a long time ago. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there. I sit there and, like I say, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of news out there. We have to be very, very careful today. Where do we get our news from is becoming more and more important. What kills me is now, I used to tell kids I don't usually give out places I consider great news. And now the opinion I have to. I'm recommending Epic Times. I've actually met the owner of it. I recommend the professionalism of their work. So that's one of them. I actually pay for Epic Times to get the Prime. I don't recommend very many other sources. I do like Sky News. I do like Mark Dice. Again, he's not news, he's commentary. but I think he's got it pretty good. I'm not a fan of Breitbart like I used to be. I'm not a fan of the Drudge Report. Those things have kind of come and gone. I apologize for saying those things. They're just not places I go for my news. Why not Breitbart? Well, I think one of Breitbart's biggest downfalls was their foreign news, the way they reported foreign news. Breitbart would pretty much go and get a translation of whatever news article was up there that they liked, and they'd pretty much do the translation and claim it as their own news article. I am disgusted when I see that. I consider that as close to plagiarism as you can get. And that just, again, it disgusts me. Why? Because I'm a professional writer, and I don't like the idea of somebody stealing another person's work. I'm not saying Breitbart does that, but I say they're very close to the edge on that. And I have seen articles, many articles, where there's such a fine line that it's been crossed. And that's where I'm not a fan of Breitbart anymore. There are many, many sources out there. Again, I'm only able to recommend a few. Does anybody else have something they recommend? Larry, do you have a news source that you recommend?
The one that I do like occasionally is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I think it's American Family Radio.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yes, that's a good one. American Family Radio. Darcy, do you have a news source you recommend?
Not really. I try not to watch any news. It's so depressing.
You know what? So this is the thing. People will ask me why don't I watch? I mean, I really don't watch much TV. I don't pay for cable. I don't. I'm too cheap. I'd rather just choose whatever videos I want to watch. So I'm right there with you. If I want to watch something, I've got YouTube, I've got Amazon, I've got a few other sort of things that I can watch. But no, I don't. I don't watch the news anymore. Sharon, do you have any news sources you recommend?
I get Epic Times too. I've been getting it for over a year now. Other than that, how do you feel about Newsmax?
I like and don't like it at times.
I still watch
I
it.
have a friend who's worked for both Newsmax and OAN. Neil, I think his name is Neil McCabe. We've kept in touch over the years, and if I have an idea or a source for him, I'll send it his way. So we talk to each other occasionally. He's pretty good. I don't trust most. I used to like OAN for a while. They were the only reliable source. And when it came down to the elections last time and how they treated people who disagreed with the election, I mean, people who thought the election was stolen, how they treated people, that's what it came down to with me. Newsmax wouldn't allow people to talk about it. OAN wouldn't allow people to talk about it. Fox wouldn't allow people to talk about it.
Yeah,
that stuff gets scary.
I quit watching Fox, and I was watching Gutfield.
Yeah.
But this week they had a tranny on, and he's a very famous one.
Oh,
Jenner. I turned it off. I said no. I'm not going to handle this.
I'm kind of curious because they mock him a lot. I'm kind of curious how they. Yeah, that would have been an interesting thing. No, that to me would be over the line too.
Yeah,
and I think that's what. I'm not saying Gutfield's a Christian because I think he pretty much expresses that he isn't. We have to. I think that's part of what we have to do. We have to be able to turn off that television. We have to be able to say that this is something acceptable and this is something not acceptable.
Yeah, that was not.
We have to have those. We have to have those barriers.
Yeah. Oh, I do listen to Bongino. I could listen
Dan
to
Bongino.
him on
I love him.
Yeah, I watch him on Rumble.
Yeah, that's Dan Bongino. I listen to Rumble. For him, I do like Oh, Steve Bannon, The War Room.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few people I listen to. Again, a lot of my news sources come in through email. So I subscribe to too many news sources. I subscribe to news sources that are oppositional, and I do that on purpose so I can see what the other side is thinking. I think that's actually important that more of us do that.
You know, and there's another news source that's off. It's Islamic, a lot of Islamic news, and
Yeah,
that's Jihad Watch. I trust
like
Robert Spencer.
Jihad Watch. Now Jihad Watch. It's now robertspencer.org. I would recommend that because he does two things now. It's called Leftist Watch and the stuff on Islam.
Oh no
I
kidding!
also
I didn't know about that
Yeah.
one.
So he does, he has both on robertspencer.org. And then another source I will recommend to everybody is the religionofpeace.com.
Oh, I do
I
that
think
one.
that's an excellent one. Let's see. Let's see if this is still working. I'm going to check this one. I think I put the wrong ending on. Yeah, I did. Okay. I think it's gatestone.org. Gatestone Institute, if I get this correct. Come on. Nope. And I haven't seen it in a while, so let me just, Gatestone Institute. In a while. I haven't really subscribed to them in a while, or I haven't received much from them, is what I should say. GatesstoneInstitute.org. So I think it used to be Gatestone. Let me put this one in the chat room in case anybody hasn't seen this one. I like Robert Spencer for a number of reasons. See if I can get him on the show. I do have some contact information. I write to him once in a blue moon. Outstanding stuff there. I have some favorite writers that work for him. Andrew Herod, who's part of our team here at with Global Patriot Radio, he's actually reviewed my book and recommended it. So, yeah, if you get a chance, that's one of the ways to support people like me. Buy the books. I've got hopefully going to be getting out some more devotionals. That's the big thing I'm going to be trying to do. If you're looking for someone to come out and speak, I'm interested. So, make arrangements. I'm willing to travel. I'm into getting the truth out. We've got vacations coming up and things, so start thinking, do you want someone to come speak? I'm actually thinking about putting something together where we can get a whole bunch of people in to talk about what people might consider dangerous. Whoa, dangerous? Why? Because it's truth. Yeah, telling the truth can be dangerous. It's scary to people who are liars. That's why truth is dangerous. It exposes lies. So this is where I spent my time in the beginning of the show talking about the problem of evil. The funny thing about the problem of evil is that it's really an argument for God, not an argument against God. And that's where I sit there. And if you want to go back and listen to the beginning, that to me is humorous. When I figured that out, I just started laughing. All this time, when I didn't figure this out till later in life. I kind of feel like I was missing the mark on that one. When I think about it, when I started looking at this from a different perspective, started saying, oh, I mean, if we're talking about evil existing, then you have to be talking about good existing. You really can't say neither one exists. So, yeah, it's an argument for God. When you start admitting that evil exists, you're arguing for God. Doesn't matter. The thing I keep saying about this, though, is the one thing that you have to understand. When people start using that argument, they are, in general, having a serious difficulty in their life. Something horrible has probably happened to them. So just be there and be that listening ear. I think it's more important that we as Christians, we as believers, do everything we can within our ability to share the gospel. And by doing that, we have to be the people who listen. We have to be the ones that are out there taking part in reality and not hiding under stones, not hiding in our apartments, not hiding in the little rooms that we have. We've got to be out there more often. We've got to be seen. We've got to be seen doing what? Let's see. Doing what you're supposed to be doing. What does that mean? Well, let's think about that. Doing something right when nobody else is doing something right would help. Helping someone across the street when nobody else is there to help. We have to be the ones that are there listening when somebody just needs that person to talk to. I saw a video that was put up on YouTube to look at today, and it really bothered me. There was a picture in the video. There's this guy. He's standing in the middle of a walk area, a busy walk area. Could be New York City. I don't know where. Lots of people walking by him. He's holding a sign. I have depression. I've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. Can someone talk to me? Everybody avoided him. They went around him. And, you'd probably be thinking the guy is nuts if he has a sign and he's asking people to talk to him, because it's kind of the contradiction of saying you have anxiety by asking for someone to come talk to you. I don't know what I would think, but the idea is that if you walked away from that opportunity, this is one of the things about Christianity. We have to be responsible for those people we could have said something to. And the question is, why didn't we? I mean, I can't say that you can always open a door. I can't say that you can always find the right words to say. And you can't talk to everybody in the world. There's certain people are just better to talk to certain individuals than you. That's the truth. But you have to start thinking about what happens when you don't take that initiative. If you do, it doesn't work. That doesn't matter. You tried. But we've got to stop giving up before we try. And that's where I get concerned. I probably stay. I'm probably more of a solitude type person, the joy of retirement. But the idea is to get out. We have to push ourselves to get out and to share. If that means walking your community, do it. If it means having breakfast outside and going someplace for breakfast or lunch and with friends, great, do it. I was late setting up the show today because a friend from church invited me to have pho. It's a Vietnamese dish. You know what? It was incredible. I have never had pho before, and honest, I was kind of shocked at the blending of flavors. It was. I've never had that before, and it was really, really good. And I wish I could describe the flavors, but I don't know if anybody has had pho, you would understand why it's hard to describe the flavors. It was just good. It was interesting. Surprised me. I like Thai food, so I thought I would like this, and I did. Get out there. Spend the time with friends too. Enjoy the time that you have to share and to talk. Encourage each other. As Christians, that is our job, to lift each other up and to be there. We have to think about what that means more and more each day. How do we lift up our brothers and sisters? And the number one thing I'll say that we need to do beyond that, besides reading the scriptures, start praying for those in leadership where you work, your community. That means praying for those politicians that you don't trust, and it means praying for the people in your church. Until we start to become a people that understands the importance of prayer, we're in trouble. You only need to look at this last election to say it. We are in trouble. We are in serious trouble. Can we recover from this? A lot of people think we can. I'm not a person that will do that. I probably was there saying, yeah, I don't know if they can recover. Honestly, I don't know. But I have to believe we can. I have to be the one that says, I'll steal a phrase from Obama. Yes, we can. Yes, we can come back from this. Why? Because if we go back to who the American people are, we're the can-do people. We are the people who can because we have a God that is mighty. When we go back to remembering who that God is, God forbid that anybody get in our way, because we won't put up with it. Ooh, that's a scary thing when you start thinking about it. You get in the way of God and his people. We have to go back and look and be the believers. We can't just be the people who are listening all the time to shows like this. We have to be the people who are out there sharing the truth in any way that we can. Learning is one thing. What do we do with that wisdom is what's important. Thank you all for listening. God bless everybody. We'll see you next week.
God bless.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to end the show from BTR, and then I'll end it in